But now I want to talk about education. So I have children at home. I've got a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old and a 16-year-old. And right now they are being prohibited from going to school. My 16-year-old daughter can't go to school, and it's a very stressful time. You know, she's preparing for her A-levels. She wasn't allowed to take her GCSEs last year. She's worried and concerned about our future. And you know, the Prince's Trust has put out shocking statistics saying that our younger generation has no hope for the future. Their mental health is at really, really dangerous levels. And we're in Lambeth right now. And recently, Linda Hayden, the boss of the voluntary group Lambeth TechAid in South London, said that the government's provision of laptops is quote unquote a joke. She called the problems a quote unquote national scandal and described the demand for laptops and Wi-Fi access as overwhelming. And this is an article that came out recently that said kids in poverty facing third lockdown without laptops. If we are going to take our children out of schools, which I don't think is the right thing to do, we've got to give them the technology they need. And boroughs like Lambeth, they need more of our support. Linda, I appreciate you for putting these issues front and center, which is why my digital first policy, which is on my website, means free Wi-Fi for all of the citizens in London. Unfortunately, a lot of our more challenged boroughs and our lower income boroughs struggle. They don't have necessarily Wi-Fi. They don't have the technology they need. And Ms. Hayden goes on to say, quote, "I'm outraged the government hasn't done more. We've had a whole year. It's been obvious this is coming. Their promises have amounted to nothing." But it's not just her. Tower Hamlets, a borough I was in just a few weeks ago, speaking before the national lockdown, warned 4 days ago that, quote, "it needs 10,000 more laptops for children who cannot attend school during lockdown." As this whole row over online learning continues to intensify. And again, another article recently from Sky News said school closures could wipe out a decade of progress for less privileged pupils. This blocking of our children's right to education is going to have long-term implications. It already has. We've got to find a way to get our children back to school, to do it in a safe manner. Again, it's got a lot of impacts for their mental health. It's got a lot of impacts for the economy itself. And we've got to really consider the long-term ramifications of denying them education, but also denying them hope for the future. And I'll tell you a quick story. When I grew up in San Diego, California, I was 8 years old. And my mom, she was an amazing woman. She is a single mother. She had 3 of us kids that she had to look after. And she said, "Brian, you can do anything you want to. You can be anyone you want to be in this world." And maybe it was naive, but I actually believed her. And the problem with today is when I tell my children that, they look at their education system. They don't have access to it. They look at what's going on in this world and they think, wow, how can I be anything I want if I don't know what's going on next? And that's the problem. Our government hasn't given us a clear roadmap out of this lockdown. They haven't told us when we're getting back to school. Even today, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson hinted it could be till the summer until schools are coming back, even though it's been proven that younger children are less likely to contract the disease and less likely to transmit it as well. We have to use the science. We have to have a proportionate response to the virus. Again, I think that there's a blunt instrument called lockdown, and it's the hammer, and all of our politicians see our nails, and that's all they use over and over again. I haven't seen even one solution that talked about how we can protect our elderly and yet get our younger people back to school and to get our healthy people back to work, and we need to talk about that right now. Again, I want to hear from you right now, so please type in your questions and tell me, what do you think? Answer these questions for me. First of all, what borough do you live in? And what question would you like to ask me when I visit you? Secondly, do you think it was right for the police to detain us, fine us, and ban us from campaigning? And do you think this is politically motivated? Third, do you think that free and fair elections should be allowed to take place on May 6th, and why? And finally, do you think we need new leadership, new vision, and new ideas to take London in a new direction? And I could have just swore we went by the Imperial War Museum here in Lambeth, and I got to say, I was right. Yeah, the team is just giving me, they're shaking their heads. I can see it out of the corner of my eye. You know, it's got those 2 big gun turrets that I think came from a battleship out in front. And, you know, this is bringing back memories. You know, I've been in London now for over 20 years, and one of my earliest memories is when I came here in the late 90s. I went to the Imperial War Museum. So much incredible culture. It really shows the British indomitable spirit. You know, this country has so much culture and so much history. London does as well. And it's great to be on the ground. And this is what I think, You know, the police didn't understand when they stopped me on Sunday. They don't understand that I need to be on the ground. I need to be in your boroughs talking to you, even if it's virtual. I need to be listening to your issues and talking to you, and I really appreciate you for that. So again, Lambeth, I thank you for having me here today. There are 68,000 young people right here in Lambeth that are struggling with not having the technology they need to go to school digitally. They're struggling by not having those laptops they need. We need a mayor that listens to the citizens. We need a mayor that gets out of his, his top floor office in City Hall with his balcony and gets out here into the boroughs like Lambeth and gets out there into Tower Hamlets and Hackney and Barking and Dagenham like I have, and finds out what's going on with you. What are you struggling with? And let's have a real conversation in real time. No hiding behind press releases. No hiding behind those prepared statements that we see our politicians do. I'm here on the ground talking to you live. Let's have a conversation. If I can't answer your question, I'm going to find out the answer to it, and that's why I'm here with you today, and I appreciate you very much. So going now to check more of your comments coming through here. Again, I really appreciate that. We've got Cameron Taylor here on Instagram that says, Brian, I'm 16 years old. My iPad's falling over here because we got bumps from the buses here. Back to Cameron, she says, I'm on Instagram, Brian, I'm 16 years old, and I'm rooting for you. I'm struggling. I'm sat in bed waiting for 2 online lessons a day. Wow, Cameron, this really breaks my heart because you're my daughter's age as well. And Cameron goes on to say, it's awful and I'm struggling mentally. Thank you for standing up for us. Wow, Cameron. I feel you. I really feel for you, Cameron. You know, we're asking our children to stay home in their bedrooms, to go to school digitally. What are we going to do? Next, we're going to ask them to go to work digitally. And are they going to live their whole life digitally in their room? It's all because our politicians are not giving us a roadmap out of this crisis. And again, if you used a forecast to lock us down, why can't you use a forecast to free us up for that? So Cameron, I really appreciate you. I am trying to fight right now to get our children back to school. It's such an important part. Honestly, I want to get my daughter, who's 16, Gabriella, back to school as well. She's got to get back there and interact with her students in a real way. Digital learning, and I'm a master of digital learning. I've been teaching thousands of students around the world for the past 6 years. I've graduated over 5,000 students from my London Real Academy. I was on 2 hours with them last night, speaking with people all around the world digitally. But for our children, it's not the same thing. They've got to be in the classrooms, and we can do it in a safe way. Let's find solutions. Let's elect a leader that can find solutions as opposed to holding their hands up and saying, we got to lock down. I don't think that's fair.